Welcome to another episode of Wholehearted Healing with Jo. I am Johanna, your host, and we are going to be diving in today talking about morning routines as well as just kind of a general life update. It's been a couple months since I've recorded a podcast, and I've had a lot of my own stuff coming up that I wanted to talk about and share with you because it has been related to my health and my well-being. So I felt like sharing that would be important, and it dives into and connects with this topic of morning routines and how I've been utilizing my morning to basically help myself and help myself feel better throughout my day. So before we get started, I did want to mention, if you follow me on Instagram, you've maybe seen, I have opened up spots for my 3-month coaching container, the Mindful Woman. So this is a container where we basically dive into the nervous system and emotions in order to and your relationship with yourself, really, to heal things like any sort of pain that you have in your body. We also look at, any sort of stress or overwhelm or just feeling, burnt out, even the aspect of even just like our gut health and our physical symptoms. Any of these types of things are open to be looked at, basically anything you're dealing with through this container. But we really take this focus of first having the foundation of the nervous system, and then as well looking at any emotional components that could be coming up, and then giving you exercises and techniques and things that you can do to treat your own body, but also work through and gain this foundation for yourself. The biggest thing that I notice in my practice, and this is why I started this coaching program, is that a lot of women don't have, there's a missing piece. So a lot of times they're getting therapy, they're getting rehab, they're getting all of these things, but a lot of people aren't looking at, again, the nervous system for one, but also just this emotional component that a lot of time links us to different things going on in our body, because our emotions, when we hold on to them, or if we're not processing them well, or managing them well, even, right, from a stress perspective, then this really starts to, over time, hinder our ability to, release these things, which then just, we harbor more things, which then brings on symptoms, and our body just eventually gets to a point where it can't, keep going the way that it's been going. It can't keep trying to hide all these things. So that's when usually our pain and our symptoms and everything start showing up. And a lot of times when these things especially start showing up like out of the blue, they're linked to other things rather than just like, oh, you have shoulder pain, like let's do all these exercises. So it's one thing if you've got a very specific injury that happened, that sometimes obviously is different. But outside of that, when things kind of show up randomly, which I'm seeing a lot more of in my practice, then that can be linked to, basically our stress and our emotions and how our body is like harboring and holding on to things. So it's basically a program to help you release all of that, and in that find resolution in your symptoms. So if you're interested in that, there will be, you can reach out to me obviously on Instagram. That's probably the easiest, but I'll leave the application link down below as well, in the show notes here. So diving into things, obviously, like I said, I'm going to give you guys a bit of a life update, and I'm going to do the life update first because it ties into the morning routine piece. So I'm going to kind of touch on the morning routine piece a little bit after, just be from a flow perspective of what we're talking about here today. The last time we're in, I think it's the end of August. Yeah, end of August now. And I think I posted my last podcast, I want to say was July, I think, beginning of July. Obviously it's been summertime, things have been busy. I've been navigating just my own schedule, I think too, like trying to find a flow of, all this creation to, build my business and share with you guys, things and perspectives and tools and techniques and things like that that are supportive for you, just like, on my Instagram and that sort of thing. But even my Instagram, I've had a hard time just getting back into things, which I'm working on as well. But yeah, it's just finding that flow and being able to maintain that sense of consistency. The biggest thing that I've been struggling with over the last, the little while, but definitely the last couple months, has been like my energy level. I know I've mentioned before in the past, if you've listened to my podcast before, I have struggled more so with my anxiety, and I would say almost like a little bit of like, I almost want to say like a bit of a depression, but not anything crazy intense. It mainly just feels like I have very low energy. So it just prevents me from like having the energy to want to go do things. So I've been kind of flip-flopping between those. Sometimes it's a bit of both. And I've been navigating this personally, but also I have been seeing a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner as well. So there's definitely been improvements over my health over the last couple months. But at the same time, I don't know, it's almost like it's becoming more in my face, I guess, in a way. And so with that energy piece being a big component to how I've been feeling, and kind of this like roller coaster of how I've been feeling, my energy levels to get certain things done have been challenging, where, sometimes I just have the capacity to treat my clients throughout the week, and like that's kind of it, right? So I've been trying to honor my body and give myself rest as best as I can, because I think that that's obviously important. And if I just worked to burnout and just pushed myself, I wouldn't get any further, So yeah, I've been dealing with that. I've been working through with that, some hormonal stuff for me, like that's been coming up again. There's been improvements in that category. I think that's a little bit of like my ebbing and my flowing with my ups and downs of emotional and that sort of thing. And obviously there's a natural rhythm to that like we are as women meant to go through, of this, some weeks having more energy, other weeks having a little bit less energy, and just being a little bit slower. And so I recognize that, but mine's almost been like at different times, like when I should feel tired, I maybe feel just like, kind of normal or whatever. And then like other times when it's more so when I should have the energy, I'm like, I don't have the energy, right? So it's like I don't feel any better, or I just don't feel, I actually sometimes almost feel worse. So it's kind of an interesting thing that I'm navigating, and just again trying to pay attention to my body and how it's been going. But it's interesting because so back in, I want to say it was May or April, again, I think I mentioned this in a podcast, but I cut out coffee. I've been drinking mainly just like decaf coffee, if I do have it, which has greatly helped with my anxiety for sure. I don't have like the physical feelings of it as much. But I have also noticed over the past couple months that it's kind of come back, not as intense, not as full force, but the anxiety and the stress aspect have definitely been there. And again, I think that just when I'm a person that when I'm stressed, I get very mentally active, but like I kind of almost shut down because I get so overwhelmed that I don't feel like I can take any action, right? So it's kind of this interesting dynamic. But yeah, I've been noticing a little bit more of that, as well as, like I said, the fatigue. And I've been working through, changing my diet, and not really from a perspective of going on a diet, but more so, trying to be more mindful of the foods I'm eating, right? Trying to eat more whole foods, that sort of thing. And making those changes has been difficult. And I was always a person, like I'm pretty sure a lot of times I undereat. And so I just getting back into like eating regular meals and stuff has been a little bit challenging, because I'm like, I just feel full all the time. So again, just with that hormonal piece and getting my metabolism going and that sort of thing has been interesting, and the moving my body piece with my lack of energy has been a struggle as well. So it's just all these pieces that it's this very, and again, this is why people have to, I feel, take this holistic lens, because it's all of these components, right? It's my mental health, it's my emotional health, it's my physical health, and my diet and my lifestyle. And then that ultimately affects me from a spiritual perspective of just like how I feel moving through things and moving towards things in my life and feeling connected and feeling like, you know, I have a purpose and all of these things, right? It obviously hasn't gone like that far, but it's like when you have those lower days and these like, you know, kind of blah days, you start to just kind of feel like I'm not doing the things I feel like I should be here to do, kind of thing. And part of that's me putting pressure on myself as well. But yeah, so it's been all these like different little pieces that I've been kind of working through and trying to not become overwhelmed with. But one thing I noticed, and this is tying things into this morning routine piece, was that I noticed that one of the things that I haven't been doing for myself, that I was doing for myself more consistently back a few months ago, was having a little bit of a morning routine. And I mean, you always have one, right? Whether it's good or bad, because I think I've talked about this previously as well. But for me, I mean, I normally, like, I get up, I'll make my bed, you know, I'll shower, whatever, and I'll, you know, maybe depending on the order, right? Things kind of change, but I'll have a coffee. I usually don't start work until like my first client at the earliest is like 11 a.m. So I usually have to leave the house around like 10 at the earliest. So I give myself some space and some time in the morning. That's just something I enjoy. I don't love just like waking up and like rushing off to work. That's like not ideal for me. So I have kind of scheduled things where I start later. And so in that, sorry if you guys can hear background noise, but in that I have maybe not been, over the last few months, I haven't been giving myself, I've had the time, but I haven't been giving myself space to like be quiet, be in stillness, do something for myself, like without like staring at my phone, or, you know what I mean? So I was in this practice of, you know, putting my red light on, and I would sit in my meditation or my sit spot, which is just a little spot that I have. I actually have a little altar space, but I have a meditation cushion that sits me kind of right in front of the red light and the altar. And, you know, I'll just sit there. And sometimes I do different things. Like sometimes I'll meditate, sometimes I'll listen to a meditation, sometimes I just like to sit in stillness, sometimes I'll pull some cards. Like it all just kind of like depends. I like to change things up. I'm not a person who like likes to have a rigid morning routine. So for me, what I've been doing is, and I've been getting back into this as part of my point with this, but what I've been doing is I will just sit there and just be like, what do I need? Do I need a journal? Do I need to pull cards? What do I want to do? What's going to make me feel good right now? Do I want to, you know, do some breathing or do a meditation, or what is it that I want to do? And so my consistency is the sitting and doing that every morning, whatever that is, whatever it is that I choose to do that day. And then, you know, I allow what I want to do to change in the moment based on what I feel I need. So over the last few months, I've gotten away from that practice, which I was like, that's interesting, because my anxiety and my stress and everything has kind of in some ways come back. And over the last like week or so, I'd say a week or so, week and a half maybe, I have been bringing that back into my practice, or bringing that back into my day, is sitting down in the morning and taking some quiet time basically for myself before I dive into work, before I dive into basically any sort of my work or just being on my phone. I'm really bad with like checking my phone in the morning, but I've been trying to minimize that and just making sure that I designate, and even if I am on my phone in the morning, I just try to, like, when I'm sitting at my space, to not be on my phone. So that's what I've been incorporating, is getting back into that morning routine. And honestly, it's helped a lot. I notice throughout my day, I will, obviously have a better mental outlook on things, even just by giving myself that space and not even necessarily like, again, having a super rigid structure. But I've definitely felt like I've got a little more clarity. I'm not as like tired, or even just kind of like, I don't know, I guess the word that I would use to explain it is like bah humbug. Like sometimes I just almost feel like, ugh, I have to go do that, or ugh, I have to go do that, right? And they're not things that I don't necessarily enjoy, because when I get there and I do them, I'm fine, but it's just this like blah feeling that I have. So that's gotten a lot better. And I have had, I would say, more energy of just, again, my mind is a little bit clearer. So I just feel a little more centered, a little more grounded. And yeah, I don't notice like myself having these like this anxiety as much throughout the day, which has helped my gut feel a little bit better as well. Because I very much have like, I would say if anything, I've almost got like what is like an IBS, right? It's like, I don't necessarily have anything like wrong with my gut, but it's definitely not what it should be doing. And I noticed that stress and anxiety for me play a huge piece in how that feels for me. So my gut has felt better. I haven't been craving as many like sweet things. Like obviously I have a sweet tooth, so I love sweets. So obviously if you put it in front of me, for sure I'll eat it. But I haven't been craving as much of that, or feeling like I need to kind of dive into that a lot. So there's just been all these like little things, but I think the biggest piece of it is that me doing that in the morning has set my day up, or has started to set my day up in a way that is supportive for me. And this is one of the things I actually go over and work with people in my Mindful Woman coaching program is creating some aspect of a routine. For me, I started with my evening routines because those are the easiest. And then I've started diving into, I would say over the last like year at the most, of like diving into a morning routine. And it was hard because I feel like everything you see, and this is why I've never done like a morning routine post, is because like, one, mine's always fucking different. It's never the same, right? And I think that took me a long time to just accept, because my mental brain was like, it needs to be structured, it needs to be organized, it needs to be like, you do this, then you do this, and like time frames and blah, 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 right? Like, everyone you see when they post like morning routines, it's so rigid and regimented, and that's just not me. I'm a person, I like flow, I like space to do things, and if you like the regimented, then that's wonderful. I mean, hell, it makes it easier to, know and organize throughout your day. But like, there's some days for me, like I sit in my little sit spot for like 20 minutes, and then there's other days where I sit there for like, it's almost like an hour, right? So for me, it's more important that I have the space to just do that rather than stick to a super rigid routine, in the sense of like, okay, we can only be here for 30 minutes because now we got to go like do whatever. So that's kind of how I do it. And it took me a while to just accept the fact that like, my morning routine doesn't have to look perfect, and it doesn't always have to look the same, right? Because just assuming that your body needs the same thing all the time, like it doesn't, right? Like sometimes you need different things, and sometimes you need different levels of support. And so again, it's getting out of this place of like feeling like you need to do it, or it has to be done a certain way, versus like actually listening to yourself and understanding what it is that you need and what it is that your body is needing. So that's kind of my take on morning routines. Again, I do think they're any sort of routine in the sense of evening practices. I don't like to load up, again, either my morning or my evening. My evening practice is literally reading a book in bed, and I maybe put the red light on because I notice that helps me sleep better. But I'm not doing 17 things. Same with my morning routine. Like I'm basically getting up, making my bed, getting dressed and showering, whatever, but also just sitting and doing, whatever I kind of need to do in that moment. But I'm not doing 27 things. I do like simplicity. I like ease more than I like simplicity. And to me, it's like, it doesn't have to be, simple is good, but like, I mean, ease is just like what if there's something that I do like that is not simple, but it's like, it's easy and not, it feels easy for me to do, I guess, in a sense, and then I'm open to it. But yeah, I've just been kind of working and navigating that with myself. So I would highly suggest a morning routine. Obviously, I've noticed now getting into it how much I do enjoy it and how much it does actually make me feel better. And if you are dealing with any sort of like stress and anxiety and I mean, obviously getting support where you need it, but also looking at certain little things like this of like, just where can you show up and support yourself more throughout your day. And, you know, if you have gotten away from any practices like I had, like, you know, paying attention to how you feel when you're not doing those things, right? Versus, you know, like if you've veered away from doing things and things are declining again, it's like, go back to those things, right? Because they were obviously supporting you in some way. So, yeah, that's kind of basically my little riff here on what's kind of been going on for me. So I do plan on getting a little more organized so I can get back into the groove of things here, as well as just continuing to work on my health. And for me, it's been, I mean, health can be something that takes time. But I think it's also, for me, I've noticed like things are taking time because I'm having to work through my own barriers, in the sense of like me, I don't want to say holding myself back, but me, I have to put the work in to make a lot of these changes. And so it's, what's my capacity? Where am I at emotionally, right? That's maybe, you know, preventing me from being consistent with certain things, right? Like there's all these different little elements to it. And so for me, that's why, you know, that morning routine I think has been so supportive, is just because it keeps me a little bit like on track, so I don't get so veered off in a certain direction that maybe just isn't supportive for me. So yeah, I think adding morning routines can definitely change your whole day, right? It can change your day, it can change your life, it can just support you in a way that it seems so small. And I know some people maybe listening to this have kids and, you know, do have to get off to work, like, you know, earlier than I do, and all of those types of things. But finding just 5 minutes, it could even just be doing an additional thing while you're like brushing your teeth, or, you know, just something small. It doesn't have to be anything big. Again, like sometimes my morning routine is very short, and other times it's really long. It depends what I need, but you know, finding moments, and you might have to wake up a little bit earlier, or you might have to, you know, work it around your kids somehow, depending on how old they are. So just finding little ways to support yourself. And, you know, maybe too, it's like, I know some women, if they've got younger kids and they're taking them and driving them off to school, it's like they get the kids off to school and everything before, and then when they come home, they'll do a practice for themselves, right? So it doesn't have to be like right when you wake up either. It can be a little bit later throughout the day, but just making that space to kind of tune into yourself and to calm yourself. And it's amazing. I always find how much, if you just give yourself space and stillness, and just like the ability to just sit and not have any expectation, or not have to like, you know, feel like you have to be like this clear mind or anything like that, but just being in quiet and you know, no noise and all of that kind of stuff, like how much that can give you energy and give you life and refresh you. So making space basically to do that. And if you can't do morning routines, maybe it's an evening one, right? Kind of clear yourself before you go to bed and just settle yourself before you go to bed, and you'll probably wake up feeling more refreshed as well. So you can utilize things in different ways. So work with what you're in the space for. But being consistent with it as best as you can is going to be important. and finding and being open to doing it differently at different times, depending on where you are, or if you're on holidays, or like for me, sometimes I'm at my boyfriend's place. So it's like, I have to kind of adapt what I do because I'm not going to lug all my shit with me, right? Like I can only bring so much with me. So just being mindful of those types of things and just having a bit of a plan that way. So that is pretty much what I have for today. What I wanted to share with you guys. I do have some additional ideas of other podcast episodes that I am going to be releasing. Again, I'd like to be more consistent, ideally once a week or every 2 weeks or something like that, and be more consistent with it. But I'm working with that. We're working through that right now. And finding ways to prepare, myself so that I can have these things kind of rolling a little bit more. So yeah, hopefully that's supportive for you guys. Hopefully you all are doing well. Obviously, if anything's going on with you guys, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. And again, my 3-month coaching container is open. So if that's something you're interested in or something you have questions about, feel free again to reach out to me. Again, Instagram is probably the easiest place. And otherwise, I hope you guys, again, are doing well, and I will see you guys in the next podcast episode. Have a good day. Bye.